Uh, I'm that girl that once she found her truth and raised her vibration, she found other friends who were doing the same. Hi, Erin. How you doing?
Great. Excited to be here for your new channel. I love this idea. I do.
Oh my gosh. Well, luckily it's not another book.
Careful, they might knock on wood.
It's not a challenge. Yes, so it does seem like our teams are wanting people to see us, to be able to actually step into the trust and belief that we are very real and that we are very human and we are still experiencing the 3D and we've all got the battle scars, emotional trauma that we've overcome to say we've almost completed our 3D missions and experiences with much love because we do not want to have to go back and experience it. And this is the whole significance of humanity having evolving is all these original souls who are having their first lifetimes here and their first physical lifetimes on this planet, they haven't mastered their own individual 3D experience. And so that's the whole purpose of this awakening. This is the whole why everything is happening is to help them be able to master their three-dimensional lives and the full range and jazz hands emotions of all those. It's all about emotions. It's the whole thing about physical lives is the emotions, is the exit points, is the entry points. It is all of the connections of everyone else in these physical forms with that veil, helping it also challenging but also purposeful at the same time for those lessons for growth.
Mm. And we are in like the final exam period, my friend.
I'm hearing that too. Yes, I'm very aware. And this is exciting. This is exciting. But what happens when you're in an exam? You've crammed for it. You have studied. You've experienced it all. And now you're having to apply it. And when we know that fear is not our friend, have we fully divorced it yet? Have we divorced worry? Because fear looks like a whole lot of other emotions that are hiding and trying to pretend not to be fear. Because everyone in the spiritual world and who is kind of aware of certain things all know that there are some naughty words that we're not allowed to play with, and fear is one of them. We are naturally going to feel into a lot of stuff when we are presented with new information and new experiences where we instinctually go into fear. We go into shock. We have to process it. How do we overcome fear? Do we want to traumatize ourselves and loop and think, oh, it's all purposeless and nothing is making sense and we're all victims and we're so alone here and we're not protected and all of those natural things that we flip into and stumble when we're in fear. So labels, we love our labels as humans, and sometimes my label is different from Erin's label, the whole ketchup and tomato saga, who wins, who's the tastiest. And so,
Probably New Zealand tomato sauce.
Watties, yes. Well, I've got a new brand right now that is less sugar because tomatoes themselves are quite full of carbs. So, trying to be mindful of my body because I want to respect myself the best way I can. And that looks like a whole lot of responsibilities and a whole lot of, honesty about what I am doing with my body, not just with my physical body, but with my mind as well. And so being responsible and knowing it's for my betterment, and I want to be able to keep enjoying this inner peace. And so it's a practice. It's not a hobby. This way of life and this way of thinking. So, what have you discovered in terms of labels that kind of when we see other people's information and they've got different labeling systems, it can be really confusing. Like with the raw material, where they talk about the harvesting. And it seems very scary versus, say, the Christian rapture that seems very scary as well. Look at us already going into fear because we don't know the true the real purpose and messages that we were supposed to learn from those things. So there are so many events that we have different labels for, but we are not sure of what actually is going on, what it looks like now. Are you back?
Yeah, definitely. Struggle with you remember my struggle with all the labels, the dogma labels of what I grew up with, and about the book of Revelations. Could A lot of people are saying that's talking about right now that we are in the book of Revelations, when in fact we are not. That's a big one, and that was a big one for me, to get you know to the true meaning of what's actually going on, not someone's interpretation.
It reminds me of a message that we got in session where Jesus was saying he's not going to come back and kill a whole bunch of people. It's not what he would ever do. That goes against his kind of moral compass. And yet, many people are excited he's going to come and kill a whole lot of people that don't follow him. Okay, that's confusing to
Yeah.
me. Sweet baby Jesus is not going to do that, but it almost feels like those people who are holding that information and trying to share that information, it's almost like they're judging people who are not following their word, their law, their belief system. Just you wait. It's almost like just you wait till your father gets home. You're in big trouble, young man, kind of thing. It feels like they're putting us into fear when we hear that there is going to be Jesus coming back to destroy the planet or the naughty kids. And there's a lot of stuff that we accidentally can blindly follow and believe because someone in an authority is telling us this.
Oh yeah, and I was definitely guilty of that, girl. Oh yeah, sure was. And then, I mean, when I was still cycling in fear, that was, I mean, what I was fixated on. I'm like, is that what's going on right now? Like, oh no, the great battle, dark and light.
Mm. It
Come on,
could be said that
we know better than that.
Well, it could be said that the great battle is within each of our minds. The dark being the density of worry, fear, disbelief, unloved, all of that negative, heavy, dark feelings, versus the light, which is I trust myself, I trust others, I love myself, I love others. You can see that difference. Even just talking about it, you can feel that density shift. And so, is that the great battle?
I like that. I like that because those who are, you know what? I'll use myself. When I was cycling with that, I played into it by being into the fear, by thinking that a group of people needed to be like were wrong or bad, or I don't even know what it was, but I played into that storyline by believing it and the fear of it all.
You almost are holding back even saying that you used to judge them as being bad because now know that the experiences that we all play, the roles we all play, there is purposes and lessons and experiences there. And to label anyone good and to label anyone bad is totally judgment. When we know that this is one lifetime out of many possibilities of lifetimes we've lived, potentially we've had many, many, many others. And I know that reincarnation is quite a big step for some people to trust and to fathom, but there is so much proof. There is so much proof out there. But when we get told something for the very first time, when we're learning and growing, we are an open book. And when someone tells us this is the way of the law of the lives, and we accept it as truth. Now, can't we go back and just think about all of the truths we have been told in our history of this lifetime that we are consciously aware of and think, hang on a minute, Jesus coming back and killing a whole lot of people, where is his compassion? If he was teaching us to love those who have leprosy, why is he now suddenly not going to be loving everyone? When
Yeah.
we all know, which version of the Bible would you like me to love, Jesus? like because he has been misused so much. And what we learned in a session was the use of the cross actually is a reminder to people: if you speak your truth, you're going to be killed. And it was like, oh my gosh, that has been
Oh,
manipulated a little bit, isn't it? To remind you the cross, the death, because that was part of his, his crucifixion was the cross. And so it's very subliminal, those symbols and messages. And he said that he doesn't get triggered with the cross, but he wants people to know that the symbol of it is, be afraid to speak your truth because
that,
you will be, well, not even that, is it? It's something else. So these sessions
yeah.
are
Good to know. I did not know that. My goodness. I believe it.
well, everything's been tried to be manipulated to disempower humanity, unfortunately, what we are discovering on our journey of awakening. And it's nothing to be afraid of when you know the truth. And we don't need to buy into the manipulation and the propaganda. We've got our own moral compasses. We can connect into our own teams and know the difference between our fear based morals versus our something else. Like we can feel, as I was saying, that density of heaviness, of those lower emotions. You can tell it versus that high, I have faith, I have trust, I understand that this is humanity's big lessons to evolve and grow and have all of the range of experiences here.
Yes, yes. I actually went to church for the first time over Christmas, and it was very interesting seeing it since my like real awakening, and since going on my own personal spiritual journey. Going back and reliving it with a new set of eyes, it was very interesting. Little digs that were thrown out. Oh, you people haven't been here all year. It's nice to see you. The parking lot was full today, all this stuff. And yeah, it's just, I'm like, happy to be here. And so I was just like, I'm just gonna send out love and just be like, praying homage to like the actual being, like the actual teachings, like the actual message of him, not how his life has been weaponized against us. And that was one of the best church experience I've had ever. But it was interesting going with a new set of eyes.
I love that. You haven't told me that. It's very cool. And I have created my own. I've used my own free will to create a connection with community. And so I've asked my teams to be able to provide a connection of my within my community of like-minded people, and literally within 24 hours that connection was made. And so now weekly I go to, our little church services, whatever you want to call it, whatever we want to call it, and it's just community. And it is beautiful and it's unity, and it is about true upliftment of each other and empowering each other. It's not about fighting over egos or titles of who we are or who we have been in other lifetimes or any of that sort of stuff. It is about honoring who we are today and what we're going through in this world right now. Because if you did not have faith and if you were in fear, this would be so uncomfortable. And this is why we are of service, to be able to help people see the bigger perspective and learn that there is so much more than the fear.
Preach. Oh my gosh, yes. Preach. It's so nice, and it is challenging too, being like, how can I get through to this person who's looping so bad? Um, so like I really have thoroughly enjoyed the trainings that you've done recently. They were just very encouraging to keep me on track personally. I really enjoyed it. Like the the best way is just love them through it. Is what I took out of your
Yeah.
second to last one, I think. But with the looping, change up the conversation. Like tell them they look nice. I mean, it might be that little, or just. And I'm so grateful for this new slash old higher perspective, and having it, being able to implement it, because we are needed right now. People need light workers. to help.
Yes, people, and even if you don't acknowledge yourself as being a light worker, being a high frequency vibrational being is of service. And this is why we need to release with love that fear and that worry and show up. And even at the supermarket, that can be our new church where we're looking at people's eyes, engaging and acknowledging and sending them love without being in their faces and without telling them about our belief systems. Just being in presence, they can feel our frequency vibration regardless of whether we are, battling for the same sale brand item or not. Like it is super significant
Mhm.
us just being of service. And so many people don't know how to be of service. We're not to try and preach to people. Really, it is about just seeing where they're at and loving them and reassuring them that things are going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It is challenging. I mean, it is challenging because I mean, so many people want to try so hard and they just want to help. And someone might not be at the point where they can hear you yet, but just your physical presence, I think means a lot.
The best thing is
Yeah.
that we can hear ourselves, and so we could are just wanting to hear others and where they're going and how the what's going on for them when they are feeling a whole bunch of emotions that is so cloudy and so in turmoil, and they don't even know what's their triggers and what's going on for them. So genuinely asking them and keep asking them and getting them to share. This is, I'm talking about our friends and family. Obviously, you don't want to pin down someone at the supermarket, but sometimes those people that we are the only people they can actually connect with. How many times have I had massive conversations with perfect strangers because they just needed someone who wasn't going to judge them and or know there's it's just these little confessionals that we can have in between the aisle. And it is important for us to always be able to see, is does someone need to vent? Does someone need to tell us how scared they are or how confused they are? We may not have the answers to be able to solve all of their problems, but us being humanitarians who love all, we can definitely embrace them. We can definitely hear them and listen and allow them to speak and be able to just acknowledge, I hear what you're saying. I can definitely see that would be so. But when we're supporting people, we the only instead of us telling them all the answers, we're trying to encourage them to learn what their own problems are, what their own feelings are. This is why it's so important for us to hear. We may be very clearly obvious, it may be very clearly obvious to us what their problems are, but they're not asking us to tell them what their inner work is. That is their responsibility to discover it for themselves. So, with love, we are constantly asking them how they're feeling and what's going on for them, because then they're having to start speaking and sharing and listening to them their own selves. Because if they're looping so much, they are so disconnected from even their own thoughts and feelings. They have to verbalize it with a loving friend who doesn't judge them.
Hmm. Hmm. That reminds me of that. I want to say you called a courier. Speaking of terminology, courier, a delivery guy that
Okay.
came and he vented to you, and it was. I mean, it was sounded like a beautiful moment, but like I think it from what you said. I mean, he needed someone to talk to.
Yeah, yeah. Him and his brother were convinced that they were not going to be experiencing the inoculation. And so his brother started changing his mind because of the pressure of his wife and a whole lot of work commitments. And it seems like when you're together and you grow together and you have the same belief systems together, that's fantastic. It is just like spiritual journeys and growth. But at some point, someone may go in a different journey and different direction. And as they were talking in another session recently about that running marathon, and when you join up and have a two-legged man race, you can often fall on your face because you're not at the same pace. And he was really isolating himself from his brother because his brother was starting to go back on his word. And this courier, my delivery guy, talking to me while I was in my pajamas, living my best sloth life. You really needed someone to just reassure him that there is great communities online, that he can do him, and that he can always have my phone number and we can talk, because he
Oh,
genuinely was concerned about his job, his relationship with his brother, all of this sort of stuff. And it was just the difference between grabbing my parcel and slamming my door versus asking him, how are you going with things at the moment? And he was so taken back that he almost just like, and I just was like, oh,
oh,
we're having this conversation, cool. And then it's kind of like, do I share my full truth about my interpretation of what's going on for humanity and why? And I'm not afraid of anything, and I respect everyone's choices, that because they're having to live their accountability of those choices. And there's so much. Anyway, thank you, Erin. We could talk for hours, and we have. but
like as we've proven.
but these little videos on this new channel, it's about
Bye.
small little things. And so we wanted to have little small snippets of information that is more palatable and not hours and hours and hours of endless insights to high perspective. So thank you for being my guest today. I love you, and we will chat again.